Hello students, welcome to Concept Building course CBC program. Today we are going to learn about animal tissue, that is we have already discussed about epithelial tissue and connective tissue. In this session we are going to learn about the concept based question. Okay, so here is our first question of epithelial tissue. Which of the following is a type of connective tissue? So first we are going to discuss about different types of epithelial and connective tissue that we have discussed already. Epithelial tissue, we have two types of epithelial tissue, that is squamous epithelium and we have simple epithelium and compound epithelium. In simple epithelium we have discussed about squamous epithelium, columnar epithelium, ciliated epithelium, right? And in compound epithelium there is stratified and transition epithelium. Stratified is the one epithelium which has basement membrane, right? And in transition epithelium the basement membrane is absent. Now what about compound epithelium and simple epithelium? Simple epithelium is made up of single layer of cells, whereas compound epithelium is made up of two or more layers of cells, and outermost layer of the cell decides the name, or shape of the cells decide the name of the stratified epithelium, right? That's what we have discussed in yesterday's session. And we have discussed about connective tissue, various types of connective tissue, loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue we have discussed, and we have discussed about specialized connective tissue. In loose connective tissue there are further two types, that is areolar connective tissue and adipose connective tissue. And in dense connective tissue there are further two types, dense regular connective tissue and dense irregular connective tissue, in which we have discussed about dense regular connective tissue, that is basically white fibrous connective tissue and yellow fibrous connective tissue, which are examples like tendons and ligaments. That's what we have discussed yesterday. Okay, we have just had a glimpse about specialized connective tissue, that is blood and bone or cartilage, skeletal connective tissue, that we are going to be discussed today. So according to the yesterday's session we are going to discuss some concept based questions. Here is our first question: which of the following is not a type of connective tissue? Cartilage, blood, muscle and tendon. So according to you, what is the answer over here? So here, which of the following is not a type of connective tissue? This is not a part of connective tissue. Basically what is connective tissue? It is connecting two structures. Okay, so cartilage is a connective tissue, as I have just revised that skeletal connective tissue CT means connective tissue. Okay, skeletal connective tissue, we have two types of skeletal connective tissue. One is bone and cartilage, right? So cartilage is also connective tissue which is flexible. Okay, where exactly cartilage is present? In the tip of the nose. If you see the ear, outer part of the ear, all these are tip of nose. Okay, ear, outermost structure, and where the cartilage is present, in between the bones also cartilage is present. Why? Because it avoids friction. If two bones, hard surfaces, are together with each other in joints, what happens? They move, right? They cause friction and it results in pain or heat generation, right? So the tips or the bones are also protected by cartilage. Okay, so cartilage is a connective tissue. Basically it is a connective tissue. It is connecting two bone structures. It is present in the tip of the nose and ears, right? So cartilage is a connective tissue. Coming to blood, as I've told you, the specialized connective tissue, there are two components of specialized connective tissue. That is first one is skeletal connective tissue, and the second one, first is skeletal connective tissue and second one is blood. Okay, blood is also connective tissue. It is a fluid connective tissue. Okay, so blood is also connective tissue. Coming to tendon, tendon is also connective tissue which connects to muscles to the bone, and it had high number of white fibers which have, these white fibers are dense regular connective tissue which have collagen, okay, and less matrix. Collagen fibers are more in tendons, that's the reason they are less flexible. Now cartilage, blood and tendon, all these three are connective tissue, and the question is not a type of connective tissue, so the answer is going to be muscles. So muscle is a not a connective tissue. Muscle have different function, it is a tissue, okay, it is an animal tissue that we are going to discuss in our next class. Okay, so muscular tissue, there are three types of muscular tissue: skeletal muscular tissue, striated muscular tissue, or you can say next one is smooth muscular tissue, cardiac muscular tissue. This contract and relax and causes movement or locomotion, okay, involuntary and voluntary movements that we are going to discuss in our next session. So meanwhile, let us discuss second question. Okay, so this is our second question. Which cell in areolar secrete histamine and heparin? As I have classified connective tissue, so classification of connective tissue, just now I have discussed the classification of connective tissue over here. The connective tissue is classified into dense, loose and skeletal, right? Loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and we have discussed about skeletal connective tissue. So here question is areolar tissue. Areolar tissue falls under loose connective tissue, which is for packing, basically packing. It is present, it is packing the organs, it is keeping the organs safe, internal cavity safe, okay. So it is the connective tissue which is present most of the structures, that is like it is areolar tissue is present on the stomach, liver lining or heart, okay. And what it consists of? It consists of matrix. Matrix is made up of mucopolysaccharides, and it consists of fibers, collagen fibers, reticulate fibers and elastin fibers, and it consists of cellular components. These cells are fibroblasts, mast cells, macrophages, plasma cells that we have discussed yesterday, okay. So areolar tissue is for packaging. It is forming the most of the tissue. If you see epithelial, just below the epithelial there is a areolar tissue, okay, and then we get to the muscular part, and then comes the bones. So this is how the arrangement of tissue, okay. The outermost is epithelial, then we have connective tissue, then we have muscular tissue wherever the requirement is, and then we have bones. So we have already learned about epithelial and connective tissue. Connective tissue, loose connective tissue, which means they have spaces between them, okay. The matrix, amount of matrix is high, mucopolysaccharides, hyaluronic acid, all this is matrix, and in this matrix we have fibers like elastic fibers, okay. We have reticulate fibers, collagen fibers. These fibers are formed from the cells. Which cells? Fibroblast cells, okay. So as I've told you, let me erase this, okay. So areolar tissue, over here consists of various components. It is for packaging, as I've told you, packaging tissue it is also called, okay. It protects various organs, okay, and abundant, most abundant tissue. Now coming to areolar tissue, the components of areolar tissue are matrix as I've told you, matrix is made up of hyaluronic acid, polysaccharides. Okay, now coming to cellular components. Fibroblast cells are present in, okay, fibroblast, they form fibers, okay, and we have mast cells, macrophages, we have blood vessels, nerve supply, okay, plasma cells, all the cell components are present, right? And what about fibers? What are the functions? Okay, here if you see, these cells have specific function. Fibroblasts have specific function, mast cell have specific function, macrophage have specific function, and plasma cells have specific function. Okay, so fibroblast cells, what is the role of fibroblast cell? Fibroblast forms fibers. Basically they form fibers. With the name itself you can tell. Okay, right? Fibroblast, which means it forms fibers. And what type of fibers we have? Collagen fibers, right? Then we have elastin fibers, and we have reticulate fibers. So this is the role of fibroblast. Now coming to macrophage, what is the role of macrophage? What are macrophages? You must have learnt in WBCs, white blood cells, there are types of white blood cells. So macrophages are very large cells. What they do? They kill the bacteria or any foreign substance that is entering to the body. Okay, so here macrophages, they engulf, okay, they engulf foreign particles. They kill foreign particles, which means they are phagocytic in nature. They are phagocytic in nature. Now coming to plasma cells also have different role. They also produce antibodies. Now coming to mast cells are the one which causes inflammation to the reaction. Which type of reaction? If some foreign substance is entering, like bacteria, the bacteria is multiplying frequently, very frequently, right? To alert our immunity, what happens? These mast cells secrete, they prevent the growth of bacteria or any viral substances. Okay, these mast cells, they secrete heparin and histamine. Heparin and histamine. What is the role of heparin and histamine? They cause inflammation. So whenever you have any infection, like in viral infection or protozoal infection or bacterial infection, any kind of infection, your body also reacts to those infections, right? How it reacts? You get fever, you get swelling, you get pain in your legs or arms or head. Okay, these are signs of inflammation, which means the body is alerting that the body is suffering from, or we are suffering from any kind of infection. So this is secreted by heparin and histamine. Mast cells are secreting heparin and histamine. So here, which cells are secreting histamine and heparin are? Yes, mast cells is our answer. Excuse me. Now, next question. Which connective tissue act as a packing tissue in the body? So as I've discussed just now, the packaging tissue is cartilage or areolar tissue, bone or adipose tissue. Any guesses? So the answer over here is areolar tissue. Areolar tissue is the one which is called as packaging tissue because it packs all the sensitive organs internally. Okay, they have epithelial layer inside and outside, and the tissue that is present between them is, yes, the areolar tissue, loose areolar tissue. Okay, so our answer is going to be areolar. So areolar tissue is called as packaging tissue. It packs the organs. Okay, it protects the organs from the mechanical or chemical stresses. Now, our next question. The most abundant protein, okay, the most abundant protein in the connective tissue matrix. Yesterday we have discussed about this, okay, most abundant protein. It is, if you classify dense connective tissue, there are two types of connective tissue: dense, regular connective tissue, that's it, and dense, irregular connective tissue. Okay, in dense regular tissue we had white fibrous tissue and yellow fibrous tissue, right? So you can recall from yesterday, if you have revised after the class, you must be knowing dense regular connective tissue consists of white fibrous connective tissue. White fibers are made up of collagen protein. Most abundant protein in animal kingdom is collagen protein. This forms the white fibers, or you can also call them as collagen fibers. Okay, so white fibers consist of collagen proteins, which makes them tough, rigid. Okay, these collagen fibers protect the structures from various stresses, external or internal stress. Okay, so this is the most abundant protein in connective tissue, collagen. Now what about yellow fibrous tissue? It is made up of elastin fibers. Okay, it is elastin fibers. That is the reason it has a yellow color. That is the reason it is called as yellow fibrous tissue. The white fibers consist of collagen protein and yellow fibers consist of elastin protein. As a result, the white fibers are called as collagen fibers, whereas yellow fibers are called as elastin fibers. So here the answer is going to be keratin, collagen, myosin or elastin. Yes, collagen fibers. So myosin is seen in muscles and keratin is seen in skin. Okay, so in stratified squamous epithelium, the upper layer of the outermost layer of the squamous epithelium, if have keratin, then it is called as keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, and if doesn't have keratin, then it is called as non-keratin stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, so this is what about collagen. Moving to the next question. So our answer over here is going to be collagen. Next, fifth question. Which of the following is a specialized connective tissue? The specialized connective tissue we have over here: ligament, blood, areolar tissue or tendon. So as I've told you, there are three classifications. Again, I'm repeating the same thing. The specialized connective tissue consists of loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and specialized connective tissue. This is the classification, broader classification. Connective tissue is consisting of loose connective tissue, okay, dense connective tissue, and please mention it properly, this is specialized connective tissue. CT here means connective tissue. So here if you see, the connective tissue consists of loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, specialized connective tissue. The examples of loose connective tissue: areolar tissue, adipose tissue. Very good. Examples of dense connective tissue: white fibrous tissue and yellow fibrous tissue. And coming to specialized connective tissue, here we have two specialized connective tissues. Okay, skeletal connective tissue and we have fluid connective tissue, that is blood and lymph also. Blood and lymph. So here skeletal connective tissue is further consisting of bone, cartilage, right? So here specialized connective tissue: ligament, areolar tissue, tendon and blood. The ligament and tendon, ligament is the one which connects bone to bone. Remember, one bone in bone joints, if you see, one bone is connected to other bone is due to ligaments, and these ligaments consist of elastin fibers. Okay. Now tendons, what is tendon? So difference, you don't have to be get confused about ligament and tendon. Ligament is connecting bone to bone, it is present in the joints, bone joints. Okay, what about tendon? Tendon is the one which is connecting muscle to bone. So here you have to understand, muscle is connected to the bone through tendons. Okay, so this is made up of white fibers. It consists of less matrix, whereas ligament consists of more matrix and more fibers also. Okay, so muscle is connected to the bone. Why muscle is connected to the bone? Why? Because the muscle causes contraction and relaxation. The contraction and relaxation of muscles pulls the bone, yeah, like this. This movement is done by contraction and relaxation of the muscle, but muscle is also pulling the bone, right? Movement is possible because the bones are, yeah, pulled by the muscles, and muscles and bones are attached together by, yeah, tendon. So tendon, ligament are not specialized connective tissue, they are dense connective tissue. Okay, areolar tissue is an example of loose connective tissue. Areolar tissue is example of loose connective tissue. Here our answer is going to be the blood. Blood is also fluid connective tissue. The answer is blood. Hope you have got your answer over here. Let us move to the next question. Which of the following is specialized connective tissue? We have discussed already this. Tendons connect. Just now we have discussed. So tendons basically are connecting tendons. They are made up of white fibrous connective tissue, right? Now tendons connect bone to muscle, right? They have less matrix, they are rigid, they are flexible, but they are rigid and consist of collagen fibers more in amount. Okay, so tendons are the one which connect muscle to the bone. Muscle contraction and relaxation causes movement of the bone. Movement of the bone is due to contraction and relaxation. Contraction and relaxation of muscles. About this we are going to learn about muscular tissue, then you are not going to have any doubts over here. Okay, so the bone movement, the movement of the bone is possible because of contraction and relaxation of the muscles. Now, so tendons connect. What is your answer? Bone to bone, muscle to bone, skin to bone, or muscle to muscle? So we have already discussed bone to bone is connected by ligaments, and muscle to bone is connected by tendons. Okay, this is done by ligaments. So actually this is a very important NEET question, so please do follow this question. Okay, so we are done with the sixth question. I'm going to erase it. Now let us move to the next part. Seventh, ligaments are rich in. Ligaments come under yellow fibrous tissue. Yellow fibrous tissue, ligaments come under yellow fibrous tissue. Yellow fibrous tissue, it consists of yellow fibers. What are these yellow fibers? Yellow fibers are elastin fibers. Yellow fibers are elastin fibers, and these elastin fibers are, yes, ligaments. Okay, so ligaments are made up of elastin fibers and they have large amount of matrix. And what is the role of ligament? Just In previous slide we have discussed that ligaments are connecting bone to bone. So they are present basically in every joint, in a wrist joint, in elbow joint, in shoulder joint, in knee joints, in ankle joint, hip joint. Every joints have ligaments. Why? Because one bone is connected to the other bone by ligaments, and these ligaments are made up of yellow fibers, which are elastin fibers. Yesterday we have discussed, and in very before slide we have discussed about this. So ligaments are elastin fibers, and they also consist of collagen. Some amount of collagen is also present. Okay, so here you can also go with the both collagen and elastin. Okay, which connective tissue stores fat? The fat is stored in loose connective tissue type modified areolar tissue. We call it as modified areolar tissue. Loose connective tissue. Okay, so here the loose connective tissue is having two types: areolar connective tissue and adipose connective tissue. This adipose connective tissue is modified areolar tissue. This is modified areolar tissue. Okay, so areolar tissue, which consists of fibers, which consists of matrix, which consists of various types of cells. Again, this is modified, and this consists of another type of cells which is called as adipocytes. Adipocytes, which store fat. Okay, so this fat is stored by adipose tissue. Okay, so here our answer is going to be the which connective tissue which stores fat, that is adipose tissue, which consists of adipocytes which store the fat. This is a modified areolar tissue, and the function is generally, the important function of adipose connective tissue is insulation from cold. Okay, and protecting sensitive organs. So these are present near the brain, spinal cord, or eyes, sensory organs. Okay, so this is adipose connective tissue. The answer is going to be which connective tissue stores fat, which means adipose tissue. Now let us move to the next question. Which of the following tissue lacks blood supply? As I have told you earlier also, epithelial tissue doesn't have blood supply or nerve supply. Connective tissue have blood supply, nerve supply, but here the cartilage is the one which doesn't have blood supply. Bone, adipose tissue, areolar tissue. Adipose and areolar tissue is loose connective tissue. It consists of blood supply. Nerve endings are present. Bone also consists of blood supply. Why? In the bone structure, if you see the structure of the bone, okay, a marrow cavity is present. Okay, this marrow cavity consists of blood supply. So even bone also have blood supply, but cartilage doesn't have blood supply. Okay, so here the cartilage doesn't have blood supply. Okay, blood, ligaments, okay, bones have blood supply, but the cartilage doesn't have blood supply. Now moving to the next questions. 10th question. Osteocytes are found in blood, cartilage, ligaments, or bones? Osteocytes are present in bones. Okay, they are present in bones, and in cartilage chondrocytes are present. Osteocytes are the one which make the matrix in a lamellar form, okay, around the marrow cavity, okay, forming Haversian canal system. So osteocytes are the one which are present in the bone. So new bone deposition is due to the osteocytes, and these are present between the Haversian canal. Okay, so this is osteocytes. Which is the similarity between, what is the similarity between cuboidal epithelium and columnar epithelium? See, cuboidal epithelium you have, and you have cuboidal and columnar epithelium. What is the similarity between these epithelium? They are composed of two layers of cells? No, they are composed of only single layer of cells. They are coming under simple epithelium. So it is called as cuboidal epithelium, columnar epithelium have only single layer of cells. Okay, they are composed of phagocytic cells. No, they are not composed of phagocytic cells. Phagocytic cells are macrophages, lymphocytes. These are not phagocytic. Phagocytic, what do you understand by phagocytic? They engulf the foreign substance, like amoeba captures food material, it forms pseudopodial extension. Similarly, the macrophages also form the pseudopodial extension, and they engulf the foreign substances like bacteria, virus, or any other infection causing agents. Okay, not only infective, non-infective agents also, if they are entering into the body and they are not required, they are engulfed. They perform function of secretion and absorption. As I have told you, epithelial tissue is divided into two types: simple epithelium tissue and we have compound epithelium tissue. Simple epithelium tissue is always for secretion and absorption, like simple squamous epithelium or cuboidal epithelium or columnar epithelium. All the role is going to be secretion and absorption. They secrete certain substances or they absorb. Okay, they have cilia, they have brush border, which means microvilli. The microvilli causes absorption, cilia causes the movement of the foreign or any particles. Okay, so this is glandular, which causes the secretion. So here the simple epithelial tissue performs secretion absorption. What about compound epithelial tissue? Compound epithelial tissue protects from the external environment or internal environment also. Okay, so they have multiple layers of cells, more than 2 layers of cells that are compound. So here what I am going to tell you, I am again repeating over here, the epithelial tissue consists of two types: simple epithelial tissue, ET, which means simple epithelial tissue, ET means epithelial, compound epithelial tissue. Okay, simple epithelial tissue and compound epithelial tissue. Now this simple epithelial tissue is made up of single layer of cells. Okay, so this is squamous epithelium. We have squamous epithelium, we have cuboidal epithelium, cube like cells. Okay, and we have columnar. And what is the function of simple epithelium? Secretion. Basically they secrete. Okay, we have learnt about glandular epithelium also. We have learnt about absorption role, microvilli. Okay, so this is simple epithelium functions, that is major functions are secretion and absorption. Coming to compound epithelium, the functions of the compound epithelium over here are protection, and they are made up of more than two layers of cells. They are thick. Okay, inner lining of the buccal cavity or outer stratified squamous epithelium, the skin, is generally compound epithelium. Okay, so here they perform function of secretion and absorption. So our answer is going to be third one. Okay, so I am going to read this question again. Similarity between cuboidal epithelium and columnar epithelium, that's what they are asking. They perform function of secretion and absorption. Now moving to other types, that is identify the tissue A and B shown in following diagram. So A is simple, like it is made up of single layer of cells, and if you see the B also, they are also made up of single cells only, single layer. They are present on the basement membrane. Okay, if you see, they have basement membrane over here, and on the basement membrane single layer of cells are present. Okay, we are seeing two directions. This is one direction and this is two direction. Okay, here like this. They are made up of single layer of cells. Here also they are made up of single layer of cells. This appearance is like tile-like. If you see the tiles arrangement on the floor, they are similar to this, right? And here the hexagonal appearance is there and the cells are very tall. So here you can clearly tell the tile-like appearance or pavement-like appearance are the simple squamous epithelial cells. So by seeing into the picture you can tell that they are squamous epithelium. Now coming to this is columnar. Tall pillar-like cells are called as columnar cells. Okay, so this A is squamous cells, whereas coming to the B picture, these are columnar cells. So A is squamous and B is columnar cells. A is squamous cells and B is columnar. The answer, very first option is going to be the answer. They are not cuboidal or squamous epithelium, columnar epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, compound epithelium. They are not compound. Compound requires multiple layers and they are not pseudo-stratified. Pseudo-stratified, which means only two different types of cells are present and it gives appearance of two layers, but it is not two layers. They are present only on same basement membrane. See, if you see, they are present on the same basement membrane. Two types of cells are present on the same basement membrane, so they are called as pseudo-stratified. But here in the picture it is squamous epithelium and columnar epithelium. So our answer is going to be the first one. Now coming to the third question over here, epithelial tissue. Consider the following: assertion and reason. Squamous epithelium helps in the diffusion of gases in the lungs. Reason: squamous epithelium bears microvilli. So what is your answer over here? Squamous epithelium helps in diffusion of gases, yes. Doesn't bear microvilli. So the reason is wrong and the assertion is true. The assertion reason questions are very important for the NEET exam over here. So here we are discussing about assertion. Assertion, which means a statement. Squamous epithelium helps in diffusion of gases in the lungs, yes, because the alveoli are made up of single layer of cells, which is squamous epithelium. But the reason for this statement is not true, okay, and it is a total wrong statement over here, because squamous epithelium doesn't have microvilli. Columnar epithelium have microvilli or cuboidal have microvilli. They are called as brush border, right? Yesterday we have discussed brush border columnar epithelium or brush border cuboidal epithelium. So here the assertion is true but reason is false. So what is your option over here? Yes, the third option. If you see third option clearly, you can tell here the assertion is true but the reason is false. What about the first statement? Assertion, reason both are true and the reason is correct explanation. It is not explaining correct. It is a wrong statement. So we have to go to the third option only. Okay. So let us again discuss squamous epithelium. As I have told you, they cause diffusion of gases in the lungs. We have alveolar sacs in the lungs, right? Oxygen comes through inhalation and the carbon dioxide goes through exhalation. So exchange of gases happens here, okay, and this surface is made up of single layer of flat cells, and these single layer of flat cells are squamous epithelium, okay. Because they are single layer, diffusion is faster, okay. We have one more tissue, that is capillary, okay, that is capillaries, and these capillaries are also made up of, inner lining of the capillaries are made up of single layer of cells, okay. The capillaries, blood vessel capillaries, the inner layer of the blood vessel is also made up of single layer of cells. Here the blood flows, RBCs are present, and these RBCs carry the oxygen and they give away the carbon dioxide. For diffusion of gases, okay, they are made up of single layer of squamous epithelium. So this statement is true, that squamous epithelium is responsible for the diffusion. If we have compound epithelium or stratified epithelium, what happens? Diffusion, for diffusion of gases it takes time, okay. So this is Not required. Stratified epithelium is not required. Here the squamous epithelium is present, but squamous epithelium doesn't have any structures like microvilli or cilia or glands. Okay, so this is the answer over here. Now coming to next question. Oh, again we are going to have assertion reason. Assertion: compound epithelium is composed of two or more layers of cells. True. Compound epithelium is made up of more than two layers of cells, then it is called as compound. If we have only one layer of cells, it is called as squamous, right? Just before this slide we have learned about it. Reason: compound epithelium has, reason is compound epithelium has protective function. Very good. Again this is correct statement. Okay, so epithelial tissue has two functions. Epithelial tissue has two functions. Major function: one is absorption, excretion, secretions. Okay, so these three are performed by, according to this. Okay, according to this, the squamous epithelium, we have squamous epithelium. Okay, epithelial tissue. Now for protection from mechanical injury or any stresses, external or internal stresses, is done by compound epithelium. For protection we have compound epithelium. This compound epithelium is made up of two or more layers. It is called as stratified epithelium also. So here the assertion and reason are correct. Okay, squamous epithelium helps in diffusion of gases in the lungs, whereas the squamous sorry, this is not the question, I guess. So compound epithelium is composed of two or more layers of cells. True. And compound epithelium has a protective function. Yes, because they are two or more layers of cells, they are for protective function. If they are for only single layer, the function is not going to be the protection. The function is going to be absorption and secretion. Okay, or transportation or excretion. So here the both assertion and reasons are true, and the reason is correct explanation. Okay, so the answer is going to be the first one. Both assertion and reason are true statements, and the reason is correctly explaining the assertion. Okay, whereas in the second option, assertion, reason are true, but reason it is not a correct explanation. So answer, we are suitable answer over here is the first one. So we are going to go with both assertion and the reason are true, and the reason is correct explanation of the assertion. Okay, now coming to question number 5. The inner wall of large blood vessels are formed by, just now we have discussed, right? In inner wall of blood vessels is formed by large blood vessels is formed by squamous epithelium. Okay, so blood vessels generally, okay, the inner walls of the blood vessels or endothelium is made up of the squamous epithelium. Thin lining is present. Okay, these are present. So these are squamous epithelium. Cuboidal epithelium is present in the glands, thyroid gland, ducts, okay, or in cavities also. Columnar epithelium and cuboidal epithelium are present. Okay, so this is a very simple answer. Now coming to the next question. The inner surface of hollow organs is lined by columnar epithelium or cuboidal epithelium or squamous epithelium or ciliated epithelium. The hollow organs like fallopian tube, we have fallopian tube, right? Ovaries, uterus, okay, fallopian tube, vas deferens. What happens? They require ciliated epithelium. Why? For the movement of the ovum or for the movement of many gamete like structures. What it is required? Ciliated. The inner surface of the hollow organs is basically lined by ciliated epithelium. So here the answer is going to be ciliated epithelium. Okay. The next question. Efficient gaseous exchange in the air sacs of the lungs occur due to the presence of Numerous microvilli, flat cells, squamous epithelium, ciliated epithelium or columnar epithelium. As we have discussed already, the blood vessels or the alveolar sac, okay, is made up of, yeah, by now you must have guessed the answer. Squamous epithelium, flat cells, okay, so they are flat cells, they are like tiles, okay, they are also called as pavement epithelium, okay, so answer is going to be flat cells. Now coming to the next question, the basement membrane is located. Basically the basement membrane is a cellular substance. It is just made up of matrix that is consisting of mucopolysaccharides. Acellular, which means they don't have cells. Acellular, which means they don't have cells. Okay, acellular non-living substance. Okay, acellular non-living substance is the basement membrane. This is the basement membrane. Okay, so whenever we learn about or we understand about basement membrane is a cellular non-living substance, which means they don't have cells or any living component. They just made up of matrix, which is purely consist of mucopolysaccharides, other proteins, okay, amino acids, saccharides. So here the mucopolysaccharides, okay, is making the basement membrane, and this basement membrane is over the basement membrane we have epithelial tissue. If suppose cuboidal epithelium over here, okay, this is the basement membrane, and below basement membrane we have many fibers, okay, we have cells, we have blood supply, okay, we have fibroblast muscles, which means it is connective tissue. So above connective tissue it is epithelial tissue, and below basement membrane is connective tissue. So epithelial connective tissue are having a common structure, that is basement membrane. So basement membrane is generally present between epithelial tissue and a connective tissue, which is a acellular non-living substance. Now coming to the next question, which epithelium has protective role in the skin? Stratified squamous. Skin is made up of compound epithelium. Multiple layers are required. Why? Because the skin is in direct contact with the external environment. Okay, any stresses or any force can cause damage. To prevent damage of the inner structure, skin has to be very thick. So this means the skin is made up of multiple layers of cells. So here multiple layers of cells is compound epithelial tissue, which also called as stratified epithelium. Okay, the skin is made up of stratified squamous epithelium. In stratified squamous epithelium there are two types, keratinized, non-keratinized. Here the skin is basically keratinized squamous epithelium. Okay, so epithelium which act as a protective role in the skin is stratified squamous. Okay, whereas cuboidal, ciliated, these are actually squamous epithelium. And transitional, they are flexible, they are also compound epithelium, they don't have basement membrane. Okay, so they are present where the flexibility is required. Okay, so here the squamous epithelium, which is protective in nature, is stratified. So here the answer is going to be the stratified squamous epithelium. Now coming to next question, the surface of epithelial cells facing the body cavity is called basal surface, apical surface, lateral surface or cytoplasmic surface. The surface of epithelial cells facing the body cavity is basically lateral surface. Inside, if you see inside the body cavity, these are present, they are forming the lateral surfaces, they are not forming the basal surface, they are not forming the apical, which means upper side. Okay, and they are not forming the cytoplasmic surface, they are forming the lateral surface. Okay, so here the term squamous and cuboidal apply, this is a homework for you. Okay, so homework questions we have over here. The term squamous and cuboidal epithelium apply to the cells in tissue. Location, connection, shape and connection, location, nerve or shape and epithelium. The term squamous and cuboidal apply to the cells in tissue. So according to the location or according to the shape or according to the shape, and it is according to the shape and epithelia. Okay, so this is the question. The 200 different cells are identified, are classified into 4 types of tissue: blood, connective and nerve tissue. Okay, or epithelial, supportive, nerve or muscle. Supportive, connective, nerve or muscle, or connective, muscle, epithelial tissue or nervous tissue. Yesterday we have discussed animal tissues are classified into 4 types. Connective tissue, we have muscular tissue, we have epithelial tissue, we have nerve tissue. So there are total 4 types of tissue, animal tissue. So animal tissue is classified into 4 types, basic types. Okay, so first is epithelial. This is for secretion, absorption and protection. So according to the function it has been classified. Now animal tissue, again we have connective tissue. The connective tissue role is it is packaging and it is protecting from external stimulus, external stresses, and as well as it is connecting the 2 important structures. Now coming later we have muscular tissue. So in muscular tissue, muscles, we have 3 different types of muscles: skeletal muscles, smooth muscles and cardiac muscles. They continuously contract, relax according to the function. If you see, cardiac muscles have involuntary functions, whereas skeletal muscles have voluntary function. What do you understand by voluntary and involuntary? Voluntary is very simple. You have to see the definition over here. The voluntary, which means the muscles which we want to work, okay, which we are under our control. Okay, if I want to move from one place to other, or if I want to come forward or backward, the movement of legs is because I am controlling this movement. These are voluntary movements. Whereas coming to the involuntary movements, they are not under our control or under our consciousness. Like for digestion, contraction and relaxation of the gastric muscles or esophagus, or pumping of the blood, that is heart is continuously pumping the blood, that is a involuntary lub sounds, that is due to contraction of cardiac muscles and relaxation, which is not under our control. So this is muscular tissue, and we have 4 type of tissue, that is nervous tissue. Okay, which is made up of neurons. Nervous tissue is making up the central nervous system as well as the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord, okay, and peripheral nervous system consists of nerves, okay, which is further classified as parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, which we are going to learn in our future classes, further classes. Okay, so here the question, 200 different types of 200 different cell types identified in humans are classified into 4 tissue types. These are connective, muscular, epithelial and nerve. So here the answer is going to be the 3rd one. Okay, now continuing with the next question. Identify the following simple epithelial tissue. Over, we have already discussed about this tissue. We have already discussed about this. So this A and C we have discussed earlier. A is a squamous epithelium and C is a columnar epithelium. Other than that, B and D. If you see, D is a columnar epithelium which consists of villi, microvilli is present. Cilia is present. Microvilli, difference between microvilli and cilia, let me tell you so that you don't have confusion. I am going to revise it. So villi are the protoplasmic extensions from the cell. Okay, these are villi. Okay, they are here for absorption. Basically they absorb. They are in the present in the intestine. Small intestine, large intestine consists of microvilli, columnar epithelial cells, or brush border columnar epithelial cells. What about ciliated? What is the difference between microvilli and cilia? Cilia are arising from the basal granules and they have uniform length. They are very small, tiny structures, and they move. They cause contraction and relaxation movement. Why? Because they are made up of microtubules. Microtubules, they have microtubules which are arranged in 9+2 arrangement. This we are going to discuss later. Okay, so these are made up of microtubules which causes movement, contraction and relaxation, and they cause the movement of the substance. Okay, so here this is ciliated one and this is microvilli. So here this is the diagram of ciliated. So this is a ciliated epithelium. Okay, ciliated columnar epithelium. Now first one is squamous, second one is cuboidal, third one is columnar, and fourth one is ciliated. So answer is going to be squamous, cuboidal, and this second one is the answer over here. Okay. Now pseudostratified is different. Pseudostratified, multiple layers of cells. Here if you have another cell over here on the same basement membrane, but the size is different. One is long, one is tall, one is short. Okay, two different cells are present on the same basement membrane, then it is called as pseudostratified. Here the cell length is similar, there is no extra cells between them. Okay, two types of cell is not present, only one type. So here the answer is going to be A is going to be squamous, B is going to be cuboidal, C is going to be columnar, and D is going to be ciliated columnar cells, epithelial cells. Okay. Cell junction are formed in epithelial tissue, provide structural and functional links between adjacent cells of the tissue, okay, are alternatively called as gap junctions. So here the most appropriate options are cell junction. One of the type is gap junction. We have discussed about cell junctions. There are tight junction, okay, adhere junctions, desmosomes are present, and the fourth one is gap junction. So not necessarily cell junctions are always gap junctions. It can be tight junctions, it can be adhere junctions, it can be desmosomes. So A and B, the epithelial cells have junctions. Why they have junctions? Because they should not have any intercellular spaces. They should be completely closely sealed, okay, to one cell. One cell is sealed with the other cell is sealed with the other cell. This is how the cell should be. No intercellular space should be present. Why? Because they are present on the lining. Basically they are lining the important structure. They are preventing the leakage of the, or they are preventing the exposure of the internal structures. Okay, so epithelial tissue are formed in cell junctions, are formed in epithelial tissue. This is correct statement. I agree with this. Okay. Okay, now coming, provide structural and functional links between. Why it is causing structural? They are acting as cement layer which is preventing the leakage, right? Okay, and functional links. Why? Because exchange of material happens because of these cell junctions, right? Now coming to alternate to gap junction, this is not a correct statement. So A and B are correct, but C is the incorrect. So here appropriate option, which means they are asking about correct answer. So the answer is going to be A and B. Okay, now let us move to the next question. Match the following cell structure with its characteristic features. Okay, just now I have discussed about tight junctions, adhere junctions, gap junctions, and synaptic junctions. Synaptic junctions is present between the nerve and muscle, or between the nerves. Okay, so tight junctions, these are the junctions. These are, let us take cement neighboring cells together to form a sheet, okay, or transmit information through chemicals to other cells, establish a barrier to prevent leakage of fluid across epithelial or cytoplasmic channels to facilitate communication between adjacent cells, adhering junctions, gap junctions, synaptic junctions. Let us see these options. A, more appropriate for the tight junctions. They are very close to each other, so I am giving time for you to understand these questions. Tight junction, adhering junctions, was some structure was formed, okay, cement neighboring cells together to form a sheet like structure. Okay, gap junctions, they cause they cytoplasmic channels to facilitate communication between two cells. Okay, so here now synaptic junctions. Here in the synaptic junctions, What is the role of synaptic? As I've told you, synapses is formed between two cells. Okay, they have some space between them, and one cell and one cell. Basically, synaptic junction is formed by the nerve and muscle, or let me draw. Okay, this we are going to learn in the neurons actually. This is the nerve ending, axon ending, and it is present. This is the muscle. So this space is present. The synaptic complex is formed and the space is present. So this is called as synaptic junction. Okay, so what is your answer over here? So options are A for A. Establish a barrier to prevent leakage of fluid across the epithelial cells, tight junctions. Okay, now coming to the second one, adhering junction. Adhering junction, they cement neighboring cells together to form a sheet. As I've told you, they form a sheet like structure. So this is the one. Okay, now gap junctions. Gap junctions, cytoplasmic channels to facilitate. Why? Because the cells were having protein channels. If this is one cell and this is another cell, the cells were having protein channels so that they can communicate each other frequently. Now coming to synaptic junction, what we are left? Second, transmit information through chemicals to other cells. So as I've told you, axon nerve endings, they have chemicals, acetyl-CoA. Okay, the acetyl-CoA, they release into the synaptic space. As a result, these acetyl-CoA bind with the muscle and they cause stimulation. So the chemicals here over here is acetylcholine and ACH, adrenaline, non-adrenaline, epinephrine or norepinephrine. These all are the chemicals. Okay, so you must have guessed about all these three junctions, but you must have not guessed about synaptial junction. So this is basically communication, transmit of chemicals from one structure to other structure. This we are going to learn in nerves. Okay, the function of the gap junction is to stop the substance from leaking across the tissue, perform cementing to keep neighboring cells together, facilitate communication between adjoining cells. As I have told you, if this is one cell, let me draw. Okay, and this is other cell. Okay, they both have to communicate, they have to transfer substances because they are very close to each other. Okay, so they will have a proton channels through which they transport water, ions. Okay, this is how they do it. Okay, so the answer is going to be facilitate or communication between adjoining cells by connecting the cytoplasm for transfer of ions, small molecules and some large molecules. Okay, so they have space between them, they can communicate between each other. Now cell junctions called tight, adhering or gap junctions are found mainly in connective, muscular or epithelial tissue or nervous tissue. The answer is obvious. Epithelial tissue have this property. Okay, why? Because they have to be present very close to each other for exchange of materials. The cell junctions have modified themselves into tight junction or adhering junction or gap junctions. Okay, so that there is a direct plasma connection, plasmatic connections are present. Which of the following statement about cell junction is false? All the cells of the epithelium are held together with little intercellular material. Okay, then comes second statement that in almost all animal tissues, specialized junctions provide both structural and functional links between its individuals. Okay, then tight junction helps to stop substances from leaking across tissue. And we have the fourth point, adhering junctions provide cementing to keep neighboring cells together. Fifth, gap junctions provide cytoplasmic junction channels between cells are the passage of ions, small molecules. So here the only, it's false. They are asking about the false statement. If you see, the first statement says all the cells of the epithelium are together by little intercellular material. Intercellular material So the cells are held together by junctions. Okay. Now in almost all animal tissues, specialized junctions provide both structural function link between individuals. No, in almost not all animal tissue, only in epithelial tissue the junctions are present. Tight junction help to stop substance from leaking across the tissue. Yes, it prevents a leakage. So here the 1 and 2 statements are wrong, whereas every other statement is correct. A tissue is composed of similar cells which perform specific function. Epithelial tissue are characterized by free surface towards body fluid and outside the environment. So if you see, the tissue is similar cells which perform specific functions, true. Okay, whereas epithelial tissue are characterized by free surface towards the body fluids or outside environment. Both A and B are correct. As I have told you, their outermost layers or innermost environment is protected by epithelial tissue. This can be squamous or compound. So A is true and B is also true. The answer is going to be both A and B are true. Second is the answer. Second is the answer. Let me mark. Both A and B are correct statement, as tissue is composed of similar cells and which perform same function. The definition of the tissue, they are performing same function, same origin, mostly same origin and same structure, right? And epithelial tissue are present on the free surface. See, skin is present on the outside, whereas squamous blood, the lining of the blood is squamous epithelium, or inner cavities are lined by the epithelial layers. Okay, so, or buccal cavity, which is our mouth, is lined by epithelial tissue. So here the answer is again, yeah, both A and B are true. What is the similarity between cuboidal epithelium and columnar epithelium? They are composed of two layers. We have already discussed about this. They are mainly for secretion and absorption function. They are not forming two layers, they are only one layer forming, and they are not phagocytic. Phagocytic cells are macrophages which are present in loose cellular tissue. So here they perform secretion and absorption. So in this session we have discussed about various questions that are related to epithelial tissue and connective tissue, how to attempt these questions, how to read and understand these questions. So before attempting any question, just read the statement. You have to remember the theory. So always revise the theory as soon as it is completed, class is completed. Just look into the information, then you can solve these questions within seconds, or within, like, you need little bit of time to solve these questions. Okay, so these are concept based questions, whatever I have taught you yesterday in yesterday's class. So these questions are linked to those concepts. Okay, so this is it, students. I am Dr. Vaishnavi. I have taken class on epithelial and connective tissue, and thank you so much.